Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. I'm your host and beat writer, Brock Bureau. You can check out all of our work at www.si.com/NFL/Rams/on SI, where we drop double digit pieces of content every single day, of course, pertaining to the Rams, what they want to do with free agency, moves being made around the league, and how those moves, of course, affect the Rams, and do they place the Rams in position to make another move in response to it. The NFC West has been, without a doubt, a arms race, to put it lightly. Seattle's had to make some tough decisions after their Super Bowl victory because, of course, when you win a Super Bowl and you have the type of expiring contracts that they do, players are going to cash in, as they should. They've earned that right. But when that happens, they go for much higher than their original market value, making them very difficult to resign. But even despite the losses, Seattle has done a good job maintaining their core. While they did lose running back Kenneth Walker, the fact that they were able to keep wide receiver Rashid Shaheed is a massive, massive, massive move for them, especially since they still have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who, of course, is expected to get extended this offseason. And that kind of brings us back to the Rams because Seattle's not the only team getting ready to roll on offense. Arizona's doing some things nothing really major to note. It's just going to be Mike LaFleur's offense that should be the massive question mark and the massive concern for the Rams. And then, of course, San Francisco made a massive move, of course, replacing Brandon Ayuk, who they are still set to part ways with. But even that situation's gotten a bit murky. But what is confirmed, of course, is that Mike Evans is a member of the 49ers. And how it's a 3-year deal that more comes out to a 1-year deal. So it's a whole thing. But long story short, Evans will be on the 49ers for the 2026 NFL season. The Rams have done their own work on defense. Of course, addressing the secondary was the major thing that they did. They invested over $200 million into the secondary. Cam Curl was extended. Trent McDuffie, of course, is traded for and then extended. And then Jalen Watson was signed as an unrestricted free agent. I'm not sure that's the last move the Rams are going to do. And all I'm going to say is don't be surprised if L'Jarius Sneed somehow ends up in Los Angeles. But that's a situation that we'll have to wait and see. And that's not the purpose of this episode. The purpose of this episode is first off to recognize all the improvements being made on the offenses in the NFC West. And now to talk about a potential free agent that could bring a lot of controversy with him if the Rams were to sign him. That is, of course, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins. Wilkins, a first round pick by the Miami Dolphins, hit free agency in 2024. He then signed a massive contract with the Las Vegas Raiders, played like 5 games before suffering an injury, and then was eventually released with the Raiders voiding some of his guarantees and some of his contract. Basically, what his situation comes down to is this. There's a lack of clarity on it, but here's what we know. The Raiders stated that Wilkins did actions that went outside the plan, the rehabilitation plan they had set forth for him. Therefore, that's how he voided his money. There's also been alleged issues within the locker room and some of the actions that he's done. Most notably, he allegedly, against all allegations, he allegedly attempted to kiss a teammate, and that teammate then made a report about it, and that report, because of the nature of the allegation, made it all the way to the Raiders human resources department. Whenever you hear a player at human resources, it always is a massive red flag. However, as far as we know, that did not result in anything major, and the only legitimate reason we have for his release is that, of course, um, it comes down to the rehab plan and the lack of following it, and that's why um, his money was voided. This brings us to today, where NFL insider Adam Schefter reported that from Wilkins' agent, 26 teams or so are allegedly interested in Wilkins. Wilkins is still recovering from his injury, but is making good progress and should be set to be a full go for the season. How many games he'll be able to play, that remains to be seen, but I think the assumption right now is that he'll be able to play a whole season. So that brings the question: do the Rams sign Wilkins, and do they pass on him? So it's a unique situation. And I wrote extensively on this on Rams on the side if you want to check that out. But to me, it comes down to asking one simple question, and that is, What does Devontae Adams know? Because Devontae Adams was in the locker room with the Raiders in 2024 before he got shipped out to the Jets. Well, he forced his way out of Vegas and then went to the Jets. What can he say? What is he saying? And that should be determination on if the Rams make a move for Wilkins. If Adams says, "Hey, I would invite into everything. This is what I know from Christian. I think he'll be a good fit because of this. He does this, and this. The play we already know is evident on the field. If the finances make sense and Adams agrees, I say the Rams should sign Wilkins to a short-term deal because they have a strong locker room, some really strong-minded characters in the locker room who I think will prevent a situation like this from becoming more than it's being alleged. And then you also need to consider the fact that there is a bit of a relationship not only between Adams and Wilkins, but then also the Clemson relationship of Tyler Davis and Christian Wilkins. They're all members of that Clemson defensive tackle or defensive line fraternity. I think which is going to be a massive help factor for getting Wilkins, like, good and ready to roll. And then I just look back at his time in Miami. When you look at the tape, like if you can avoid a bunch of these issues, wow, what a player. When you start looking at the schematic fit, if you place him in the 3-4, your three hand in the dirt, in the dirt defensive linemen are going to be Wilkins, Puna Ford, and Kobe Turner. That's a lot of muscle up front. And then you start looking at, some of these pass rushing designs, whether they go to dime or to nickel or whatever they do. Wilkins as a pass rusher, I mean, he's very hard to contain. And that's going to allow the Rams to rotate more and keep their pass rushers more fresh as the game goes on. And if they're able to stop the run early, start to build on those leads early, you can see the Rams force the opposition into a majority passing attack. In that case, you are going to have an elite rotation of defensive linemen pinning their ears back and going after the quarterback. And when you have cornerbacks like McDuffie and like Watson, you can do a lot of interesting things with your dime backers, your star position, who's going to be Quentin Lake, your regular safeties, whether that be Cam Curl or Cam Kitchens, your linebackers, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of unique designs that you can create to induce more havoc, while knowing that your rotation on your pass rush is going to be fresh and ready to go for every single play. I'm thinking about teams like the 49ers who have that strong identity up front. Wilkins can be the guy that can help the Rams penetrate the backfield with much more efficiency. Then there's the other side of the argument, which is if Adams says, "Hey, this is a no-go," then it should be a no-go. There's too much going right for the Rams for them to take a gamble that they believe will not pay off. If this is a situation where Wilkins is a misunderstood player who has been improperly represented by the media due to the lack of clarity on the situation, I think the Rams will get a steal. If this is a situation where what's being reported is more correct than incorrect, the Rams cannot let Wilkins anywhere near the facility. Well, first of all, just from a logistical standpoint, the Rams locker room is small. Should something like that pop off and there be an altercation or fight occur, there's not a lot of room to roll around. They're going to be slamming into lockers, slamming into things, and that's just going to lead to a whole bunch of problems. Then the second portion of it is this. Right now, the level of team continuity within the Rams is at an all-time high. Everyone is on the same page, wants to play for each other, wants to win for each other. A guy like Wilkins, if what's being alleged is accurate, could disrupt that to the point where they can't refine that, level of continuity or closeness throughout the season because of whatever factors or results a situation like that could create. It's a very fine line to walk. But in my opinion, when it comes to this season, you don't know what your tomorrow's hold. And Wilkins is too valuable a player to be that attainable to not do your proper homework on. This is a situation where you do need to make some calls, find out as much as you can, use as much inside knowledge as you have to get a determination. But if this is a move that looks good and feels good, you have to execute it. But if you have those uncertain feelings, hey, sometimes it's better just to walk away before you make an investment that ends up blowing up the entire operation. This has been Brock Vieira for the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. We'll catch you all next time. Take care.